Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Sound Archives. My name is Christian Maiorino, and I am the host of this channel. So, today's episode is titled, What's New in 22? And what I'll be doing is just reviewing some new releases that have come out so far this year in 2022. So, of course, the two LPs behind me are not albums that came out this year, though the bands on those albums are a couple that I will be going over today. So, what I'm going to try to do here, I've got 4 albums that I'm going to be talking about today, and what I'm going to do is try to start chronologically from release date, from the first one up through the 4th one. So, first one that we have came out on January 14th, and that would be the new album by Tony Martin called Thorns. So, for anyone who doesn't know who Tony Martin is, he is a former lead singer from Black Sabbath. He was in the band from the late 80s up into the 1990s, and he sang on all those albums with the exception of Dehumanizer, of course, which was with Ronnie James Dio. And it's kind of a shame. I mean, I'd say most of the albums he did with Sabbath were all pretty good, but, unfortunately he's kind of overshadowed by, I think, the classic era with Ozzy and also the Dio era. But it's really too bad because Tony Martin is really a good singer and a good songwriter in his own right, which is displayed awesomely on this new album that just came out. Honestly, it wasn't something that was really on my radar personally. I just saw one song posted online. I'm like, oh, Tony Martin, he just put out an album. And then I, click on the video, and it was for the song As the World Burns. And I was just instantly hooked right there. I'm like, holy shit, this is heavy as fuck. Which is the opening track on the album. So, anyway, as far as the personnel on this, of course, you have Tony Martin who's singing. And I guess he's also credited with guitar, bass, and violin on here. You got Scott McClellan and Dario Molo, who are credited with guitar. Of course, Dario, he's done some work with Tony Martin in the past and also has done worked on projects with Glenn Hughes. Scott has worked with various artists previously. On drums, you have Danny Needham, who, according to my notes here, he's also in Venom, where he's known as Dante. And this is Kronos' Venom, not to be confused with Venom Incorporated. And lastly, rounding out on bass on here, we got Magnum Rosen, I don't know if I'm saying that right, who's notable for having played with Hammerfall. So, let's go back to this again. The title track, as I was saying, is just fast and furious. It's melodic, doomy. It's awesome. The band on here sounds great throughout. The production's great. This album really has a lot of different variety to it. For instance, the track Black Widow Angel is doomy and Sabbathy, and probably more so than anything actually that Tony Martin sang on when he was in Sabbath, to be honest there. It's got a killer bass solo in it as well, which you don't see too often a lot with metal bands doing. Usually it's just a guitar solo, but this one is actually a really good bass solo. So it's something a little bit different, but definitely fits the song. It's great. You got Book of Shadows, which is kind of an atmospheric, creepy type of song, but also has this very 1970s keyboard sounding solo in it, which is pretty good. You got Crying Wolf, which is more of like this kind of dark acoustical, I would say acoustic jam. I guess it's an acoustic jam with this retro sounding guitar solo. You got the sleazy rockin' No Shame at All, Passion Killer. Another good song I like there, which is kind of reminiscent of, it sounds like a 90s song, and it's somewhat reminiscent of something that could have been on the Cross Purposes album from Black Sabbath. Then you kind of, towards the end of the album, it takes a little bit of a left turn here with this bluesy acoustic jam known as This Is Your Damnation, and then finally the album closes with the title track, Thorns, which starts out kind of slow acoustic and then kind of builds up to heavy metal. So overall, if I were to rank this album on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the absolute worst, 5 being the best, I would give this a 3.5 or a 4. It's really good. I like it a lot. It's just kind of, at least to me, maybe it been on other people's radars. Wasn't on mine, but it just came out of nowhere. It kicks your ass. and happy to see that Tony Martin is putting out quality music, unlike another former Black Sabbath lead singer that I'm not going to talk about in this video. So next up we have from Jethro Tull that came out, the Zealot Gene, which came out on January 28th. So this is the first Jethro Tull, the first new studio album of all original material since jtull.com came out in 1999. So it's been, what's that, 23 years now, I think? So it's been quite a while. Ian Anderson, and guy is 74 years old now, and I guess he's still keeping the Tull machine going here. Of course, he's the only constant member in the band. But joining here, we have, according to my notes, I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce his names right, Florian Opahile. I'm sure I'm butchering that. On electric guitar. You got David Goodyear on bass, John O'Hara on piano, keyboards, accordion, and organ, and Scott Hammond on drums. And then you have Joe Parrish James, who plays guitar on the track In Brief Visitation. So this album, I mean, it sounds like sounds like Jethro Tull. I mean, it's got that folksy. I wouldn't say it's really hard rocking. It's definitely more of that folk type of sound. Though there are some blazing guitar solos here and there, such as the opening track, Mrs. Tibbetts. Then there's some tracks that have the softer, kind of dark, foreboding type of sound, or something that even can be kind of uplifting and kind of dramatic in parts, such as the title track, the Zealot Gene. Overall, I think this album is okay. I like the title track. I like Fisherman of Ephesus. 1 to 5 scale, I would give a 2.5 or a 3. Like I said, this is something that might, maybe it'll grow over me or grow on me over time. We'll see. Right now I would say I don't love it, but I don't hate it. So it's just kind of right there in the middle. So now coming up, we have the new record from these guys right here, Saxon, called Carpe Diem, and that came out on February 4th. So, of all the albums that I'm talking about today, that's probably the one that I've had probably the least amount of time to really listen to. I've only listened to it maybe 2 or 3 times, start to finish. I think it's an okay album. I mean, it sounds like Saxon. I guess what else would you want Saxon to sound like? For personnel on here, of course, you got Biff Bifford on vocals, Paul Quinn and Doug Skerritt on guitar, got Nibs Carter on bass, and Nigel Glockler on drums. So the album opens with the title track, Carpe Diem, which right away sounds like that traditional Saxon that we all know and love. Some of my highlights on here, I like the song Dam Bustards. I think is a really good hard rocking song. Supernova is another one, another highlight for me on here, another fast rocker. Black is the Night has a pretty cool riff in it that I like, and then the last track is another fast rocker, Living on the Limit. Overall, I would give this. I would say it's a 3 out of 5 so far. I mean, I wouldn't say it's quite hits the heights of the those classic Saxon, or even some of the more latter day releases that have been coming out within the last 10 years or so. But look, it doesn't suck either. I think anyone who's a diehard Saxon fan would definitely appreciate the new album if they haven't listened to it yet. So now this brings me to the 4th and final album that I'm going to be reviewing today. And it's certainly not least this classic gem right here, which was released on February 11th, and that would be Synchro Anarchy by boyvod. So I've been listening to this one almost since the day it came out, pretty much on a daily basis, and sometimes even twice a day. I think it's an incredible album. Of course, you have Snake and Away, well, Snake on vocals and Away on drums, who were both original members of the band. Of course, Snake had left at one point in the 90s, and they had a different singer for a couple of those albums there, but then he came back into the fold in the 2000s. And then on bass, we have Dominique Rocky LaRoche. I don't know if I'm saying that right. On bass, and then of course Daniel Chewy Mongrain on guitar. So this is Chewy's third record now with Boyvod, and it's Rocky's second album with Boyvod. So I gotta say, Boyvod has never really disappointed, and this new album is no exception at all. A few years back, or actually several years back now, when Piggy, their original guitar player, when he died, and they did those couple albums where they had guitar parts that he had recorded, and they were able to do the Couture's album and Infinity. It sounded like they were pretty much done, and they weren't going to continue on after that. But I gotta say, Chewy coming in on guitar has really breathed new life into this band, and everything that he's done since coming into this band has been phenomenal. I think that this album, and even like the last one, it's some of the most progressive and I think complex music that they've ever written. Some of the weirdest stuff that they've ever written. Some of the song titles here, you got Paranormalium, Mind Clock, just really great. There's franticness to it. There's just a hypnoticness to everything that they've done on this album. Every song just kind of takes you on a musical journey. Voivod, they're considered, you could say that they're thrash or progressive metal or progressive thrash metal, whatever you want to call them. They really have a unique sound. There's no one else out there that really sounds like them. They can be kind of an acquired taste, I think, because of that. I wouldn't say anything that they've ever done is real mainstream sounding. But, you have song titles, Mind Clock, Planet Eaters, Sleeves Off is another good one. Really, start to finish, everything in this new one is great. And even some of the lyrics are strange, like on the song Quest for Nothing, where he sings, I am an ant. Weird, right? But, I don't know, the way he sings it with that conviction, it just, it sells it for me. I think, too, this new album, I don't think any of the newer albums sound exact. It's like, they sound the same from each other, but then they don't sound the same. I think a lot of what they've done, I'd say this new album, and I would say the same thing about Target Earth as well, and maybe even The Wake, is that they kind of sound like somewhere between, like, Dimension Hatros and Nothing Face, if you're going to compare it to those older classic Voivod albums. But they also just sound, it's hard to describe. They all have their own personality on their own, but they still say, you listen to it, it's Voivod. So, for them to, produce albums like that, to still, put out something that's fresh, that, sounds like, sounds familiar, yet sounds fresh and invigorating, and something that's different is just, it's great. It just shows, the talent that these guys have. So, this record, on a 1 to 5 scale, I would give it a 4 or 4.5. It's really good. It could grow on me over time. Just like, any of the other ones that I listed today. So, we'll see. Well, I think that concludes my video for today. So, what I would like to hear is, let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts on these 4 albums that I reviewed today. If there's something that has come out this year that I didn't talk about yet, let me know about it, and maybe I'll review it in a future video. For instance, I know the Scorpions just put out a new album, and I've heard a couple songs on that, and that sounds pretty good, but I haven't listened to that whole one yet, so maybe I'll get to that one in a future video. So, some of what I got planned coming up. So, when I launched this channel last year, I did a versus series where I compared a multi-part series where I compared almost the entire discography of everything that Ronnie James Dio sang on versus Ozzy Osbourne. So I'm going to do another multi-part series coming up for the month of March, and this time I'm going to do Metallica versus Megadeth, starting from the beginning up through the most recent releases, and I'm going to do it similar to like I did that series. It'll probably be a multi-part. I'm planning to do probably a 4-part, one a week for the month of March, so definitely be on the lookout for that. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And until next time, this is the Sound Archives sounding off.